There have been some talk recently about the modern day story of the Assassin's Creed games, something that ties the stories of all the titles together. We had modern day stuff of course in Origins as well, but an important character was not mentioned. I'm of course talking about Juno, an Izu scientist with no good intentions at all. But now, in the vials of the PC version of Assassin's Creed Origins, Dutch Giant sent me some interesting things regarding Juno, and we also got some names of weapons that will be added with the second DLC. So I want to unpack this all, go a little bit more in depth on Juno and the connection with the Trials of the Gods. It will be interesting. So if you like that, then like would be super appreciated, and let's go. Again, thanks to Dutch Giant for sending me this. I want to start with the interesting files regarding Juno. We see Juno dual wield X left hand, dual wield X right hand, and also Juno with a war hammer. So for everyone that's not familiar, she's the villain in the modern day story of the recent Assassin's Creed games and wanted to take over the world. But again, in Origins she was not really mentioned, and according to the Assassin's Creed head of content, this was because the story that is set in the past is the main story. The vast majority of people that buy Assassin's Creed games or are new to the franchise buy the game on the promise of being able to kill people in Egypt in the case of Assassin's Creed Origins. All the trailers are also about that and none about the modern day. And I can totally see where they're coming from. If you have this overarching story that requires knowledge from the previous games as well, then yeah, a lot of people will simply not understand it, or you have to like explain a ton of things. Then of course you also have the fact that a lot of people lost interest in the Assassin's Creed franchise, with the series hitting a low point with the Syndicate selling less than 1 million in the first week, as noted in the image from the Codex on Twitter. So it's safe to say that most people don't know what is going on with the modern day stuff, and that's probably why they did not continue the story of Juno in Origins. Now it seems like this second Uprising comic will conclude her story and also the modern day stuff that was like going on in the previous games. But this was different before, or it still is, because again, Juno is in the vials of this game. It looks like she'll be using 2 axes or a warhammer, maybe in the arena, because all the vials we see above Juno are from arena bosses. We see Zeluzid, the hardest arena boss, with his bladed staff. We see the Raging Axis, of course, with his dual wield axes, and Juno under that, implying that she will be a boss in some form, right? So of course I did some research. I asked some people, for example Zuria, a developer I know from Instagram, and also people that know more of the lore of Assassin's Creed than me. And while everyone found it hard to believe that Juno would indeed return in this game as a boss, the final trial of the god boss for example, more on that later on in this video, it is hard to deny that these files do exist. Zuria noted that if the code is there, the feature exists, it's just been turned off for now, which is really interesting indeed. If Ubisoft would not want to use this, why include it in the source code in the first place? Of course, if you have any insights in game development or any other sort of input, please feel free to share it in the comments of this video or via my Instagram and Twitter, both JorRaptor. While they might have shied away from it, first, Juno was connected to the Trials of the Gods, because the Trials of the Gods were referred to as the Juno events. In June, when the game was revealed for the first time, icons on the map showed up with the name Juno Events, and then later, as noted by Access the Animus, there was a URL of an Anubis Godfight concept art where the name Juno Events were also mentioned. And that already kinda confirmed the link, but now if we go back to the vials of Assassin's Creed Origins, we see that as well. Juno Anubis completed map, Juno Anubis map, and there is for the other gods a vial as well, and also the last one, Juno Event completed map and just Juno Event map. So probably the last 2 vials we see there are for the upcoming final Triad of the God event, where all the 3 gods will return. It will be live on December 19th, so it might be by the time you watch this. We still don't know what this final trial will be, because Ubisoft did say in the pre-launch livestream that there would be 4 different trials of the gods.
And so once you defeat all 4 different trials of the gods, you're gonna get all 4 weapons, and then this is your chance to get the this really cool and horrifying Anubis outfit.
And of course, fighting Zobak and then Anubis and then Segment in one fight would be a different trial than we had before, but it would still be pretty lame. What if, looking at the files, it could be Juno that we will be fighting in an arena or just in general. Again, these files are in the source code of the game, and if they did not plan on using them, why not simply remove them? It would also kind of explain why these gods show up in the first place, why these glitches in the enemies are happening, and I still think it would be awesome for the people who don't know who Juno is, because they would be fighting a new god, a new fight. That would be still pretty cool. But yeah, enough hype. I want to temper expectations, because we learned that, of course, with this game. You don't want to hype too much. For example, the Horde mode, a great example. Super hyped for that, and then you learn that at wave 16 you simply cannot advance because the enemies have skulls above their heads. So temper expectations, those are really the key words here. We will probably be fighting the 3 gods we already killed, but then in one fight. So after you kill Anubis, Sobek will come up and you have to kill him, and that will probably be the fight. But again, I thought it was interesting to share these files. Nevertheless, I'm super curious to hear what you think of this. Then we also have more files thanks to Dutch Giant. We got a look at the names of weapons coming in the second DLC of the game. It is the Curse of the Pharaohs DLC that is slated to release in March 2018 as part of the Season Pass. And what we got are new weapons that are focused on names of gods and pharaohs. So before I start with pronouncing these names, sorry if I butcher them. So we have the bow of Maris, the lion-headed god of war. We got the Ramesses bow, one of the biggest pharaohs of all times. And of course in the trailer we saw that this DLC is really focused on the Egyptian mythology. We also got a long spear and a real long spear from the pharaoh Tutankhamun, who would also be in the game if we see the next picture here. His body is on the bottom of the red square. In the other page we also got more NPCs, bosses and weapons from the looks of it. And I know that I'm going too fast, don't worry, I put a link to all the images including the Juno ones in the description of this video, so you can check them out, take your time if you want. But it doesn't really say much, like the names of the weapons. It sure looks interesting, but we will have to wait and see what the stats and the looks and stuff like that will be. So what do you think of all this? I mean, we will know if Juno is connected to the trials really soon, December 19th, so tomorrow at the time of this recording. But still, if she's not in the trials, we do have her with dual axes and a warhammer in the vial. So maybe she will show up later. Of course, temper your expectations, but all the input is appreciated. Let's figure this out together. I thought it was still interesting to share, even if it might end up being nothing. Expect a ton of content around the big events that will happen on December 19th. I will be all over it. So the Triad of the Gods, the Final Fantasy 15 quest, and way more. I really can't wait. I got a lot of great feedback on my video regarding these secret changes of patch 1.10, so totally check that video out if you haven't already. Like this video to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I will speak to you next time, and goodbye.